All right. Hi guys. As you know by now, we had a little problem with the internet when it comes to do the live critique workshop of this month. I'm very sorry. I'm in Canada. I'm visiting families and friends, and I'm moving around each time that I'm doing recording or each time I'm working, and I had difficulties with the quality of the internet and the quality of the audio at the same time. Right now I'm having a good internet now because I found a place, but the audio is going to be all weird, so I'm very sorry about that, guys. This is going to be all fixed as soon as we start in January, so just stick around, guys. We have a little bit of technicalities right now because me and Fabian are both in our respective families, but as soon as we start 2018, everything's going to be smooth as usual. In all those cases, I'm here today, guys, to give you your critiques. This month is going to be a recording of it because of the problems we had. So stick around, make sure that you're there for the next month. If you have any problem with this being recorded instead of being live, do not hesitate to email us at hello@paintable.cc, and we'll take any complaint that you guys have. I'll make sure that you are happy. But in the meantime, this one's going to be recorded, so I hope you'll be still happy. I'll make sure to go in details in everything that I do. So let's get started. And obviously, Fabian is not going to be with me for this one. I'm sure you wanted to be with me, but it's impossible for us to actually record at the same time right now. So it's going to be all me for today. And I'm going to start with a Zana work, and I'm just going to go switch from here to Zana's request here. So Zana says, so this is my first time trying to draw a landscape drawing or a semi-realistic drawing. So I apologize. There's no need to apologize. I would like to know how I can make it look sharper or clearer in certain area so that it stands out more and improving the focus. So all right, Zana. For what I see, this is a good sketch. It's a good sketch to start, but the resolution you gave me is really hard for me to actually judge when it comes to improving the focus. If you had given me a little bit more of sharpness in the image, it would have been easier for me to see. Things that you might already know, but are really important to remember when you want to have some focus on something is A, having more pixels on your document. Right now, what I have is barely enough to see any details, and also to make sure that your edges are sharp. Now, you have to first decide where you want your sharpness on this image. I'm guessing it would be around your house, so that would be the first thing that I would try to do. Actually, I would first make sure that your house has sharp edges, and for that you just want to make sure that that all the small lines that you have here needs to be disappeared, and all the edge are sharp all around. What you can do is make sure that you have contrast, like to change the colors on the side. See, I'm going to add some pixels here because I'm already having trouble. So I'm going to pump that to 3,300 dpi, which will bring me to almost 3,000 pixels. And from there, I'll be able to have sharper edges to draw. So one thing that you could do is make sure that when you draw something, you have a contrast between the two. When you did here from here to here, the contrast is like in color is kind of similar. It's really dark and then it's darker. If you're able to just make sure that on the side it's a little bit more pale, not as pale as this, but just a little bit more pale, then the contrast is going to make sure that it's very sharp and crisp, and your eye is going to catch your house way faster this way from a distance. So every pieces of this drawing that you would like to have sharp, make sure that you have enough contrast in between them, and therefore you'll be able to do it. Also, just make sure that you have like small lines all around. Make sure to just clean them, and that's going to help you to actually get some sharpness as well. And for the rest of the image, once you make sure that your house is sharp enough for you, and I'm doing a very fast job just here to give you an example of it, but just so you understand that those edges needs to be cleaner and clearer. See, like right now it was like full of like small lines everywhere, and now I just make sure that they were sharp. This is going to help your eye to do it. Then you have like a mountain here. If the mountain is not in focus, it should be a little bit blurry. If it is in focus, then you want to make sure that you have still art edges as well, because what I see here is very like a beginning of an image. There's a lot more work in it if you want something sharp. You see there's places all around that needs to be retouched. Although your mountains are in the background, maybe they don't need to be so sharp or so prominent. So just make sure that maybe then you can blend the color of the sky and the mountain together to create some sort of fog, just to help make sure that the house, I'm just gonna see, I'm painting some blue here on top of them. It's gonna put them a little bit in the background, and therefore it's gonna make sure that your house is sticking in front of it a little bit more. And you got some posts here. The same advice would go for those posts. Make sure that they are sharp if they are to focus, right? So A, more pixels, like I was saying, and B, you see you have some squiggly line all around here. So I don't know if there's supposed to be some sort of T or just, actually, you see, there's not enough pixels for me to actually know what it is. So just make sure that if you were to design those, you would make sure that they're readable, right? So if it's a T like this, for example, and it goes like, is it like this? Well, all the rest needs to be sharp all around it, you know? So this way you'll be able to actually read them. Same thing for your, looks like, to me it looks like swords that are like planted in the dirt. I'm guessing it's not swords, but just make sure that the edges yeah, are sharper so you can actually read the thing. I'm just gonna try to blend that, but you get the idea here. So sharpen everything that needs to be sharpened so you can read it. I'm just gonna put that in it. And maybe, yeah, just make sure that your background here, obviously I put some lines here, but they need to be like work on. You understand that? I'm just gonna make it more obvious here, that they need to be just reworked with the whole background, you know. So they're blending together. So you would have some work to rework a bit the background here. And obviously in the shadow here, you could go ahead and just paint it back. As long as you have a sharper edge here, it should do the tricks. Also, your shadow, if this is the shadow of your house, that needs to be super sharp as well. You know, if it's representing the shadow of the house, let's say it goes from there to there, that needs to be sharp as well to do the trick. So making sure that this is sharp is just going to help to bring everything closer to your eye. Same thing here, like, it's because I see a lot of places that you just need to put more sharpness. So right here, you see we got your lines are like all on top of each other. Like you need a hard edge here to be able to read that. Looks like a little mountain or sandbox, something like that. And just make sure that you have sharper edges, that they don't go through in transparency. And working with pixels, a lot of more pixels when you do your things, it's going to help as well. So yeah. But beside that, it seems like it's going to be a great scene. You just need to work a little bit more on it. I hope what I just showed you will help you. If you have more question, because we're not live on this one, just make sure to email me at hello@paintable.cc and I'll come back on the explanation that I did already. In the meantime, great work. Keep on working on it. And we'll move to the other person that sent us some work, and this is Bob. Bob that says, this is my father-in-law, and he said that you had, you showed me two, one that it's a few attempts, and the other one is the 45th attempt, so I'm guessing there's going to be a huge difference in betweens. I'll just open your work so we can see it. So right here, so I'm guessing this is the for the 5th attempt, and that was just like the second or something like that. I see there's a huge difference. It's very nice. And here we have the photo, and I really like that the photo that you gave me, like the illustration that you did, Bob, is much better than the photo, and that's really nice. I see there's small differences maybe in terms of anatomy, but close enough. Like I would say that maybe like you would have your head needs to be just a little bit more narrow on the top. Um, but beside that, I really feel like the proportions are really great. Maybe, like I saw your work getting better and better, Bob. And what I could tell you to just make it even better than that, when you're doing those lines, well, I know there's stylization at the moment, but maybe you could try to blend it a little bit more like you did with the face, because I see there's a lot of work in the face. So maybe blend them more instead of making lines. Make sure that you paint actual shadow, except if those lines are actually part of this. Yeah, I think it's part of the shirt. So in this case, I would keep the lines, but I already have lines like the hair. You could just make sure to just blend them more. Obviously, this photography is art for you. There is not a lot of pixels for you to actually read the sharpness of it. So knowing that, you did a great job for sure. But maybe it would be time for you to try to add some art edges, and I would say art edges, especially around the eyes. Let me try something. Just to make sure that you can read it more. So I'm going to look at the eye and just making sure that you have just a bit more of a art edge to a few places. I'm just going to try something here because your image is just quality of the image is not good enough for you to be able to see those details. So you're going to have to imagine them. That's pretty much what I'm trying to do here. So just, like it's going to have like the eyelid here, and inside the eyelid you'll have some sort of a shadow, and then you'll have some sort of a reflection at the bottom of the eyelid. And if you do those just a bit sharper, it's going to help the whole thing to be readable. Same thing with the sharpness of the iris, making sure that the iris is sharp. And yeah, just adding some sharpness all around to just help the readability of it. So small details, like right now I'm just adding few things, but you see it really brings the eye closer to something sharper. And you can do the same thing with like the eyebrow and the other eye, just making sure that you're going to paint some art edges at some places, so it's going to bring the eye of the viewer right straight to your focus. And after that you can keep the background as loose as you want, for sure, because it's in the background. And the hair doesn't have to be all sharp, but maybe a few places. And this is just going to help the eye of the viewer to move from places to places on the illustration. It's the way you decide what the user is going to start seeing when you're looking at your work. So those edges are very important. And the places that you could put them, like obviously the eye, like I just did, but you could do the other eye, maybe the eyebrows, maybe a bit of the nose, maybe the mouth as well, because those are all very important feature of this illustration because it's a portrait. Maybe even the ear would have a little bit more work. So if you're able to just bring some more focus to this, I think you're going to have a really, really nice illustration. So yeah, just keep on working on it. It's great work, and I'm looking forward to see it a little bit more pushed. Maybe you'll push it until you do 90 of them, but you'll have a really great piece for your portfolio. So thanks for sharing, and yeah, keep on it. So we're gonna go to the next one coming from Dana. And then I was saying I recently completed a piece for Tiny Dragon art book compilation. I don't often complete pieces with full background, so this was a challenge for me. It is always a challenge. It's really hard to do backgrounds. I'm overall pretty happy with it, and I reference some things from some other communities I'm following, but I feel like the colors don't really work and maybe the composition is off. So any help with creating a convincing scene would be appreciated. Note the requirement for the piece were one-on-one. That's the size of it. So one-on-one for people that don't know, so it means it needs to be 10 inches by 10 inches or 20 by 20, but basically like they need to be like equal. It's basically a square. That's what it means. So the composition was hard to work in, but I'm happy for general composition advice. Oh, all right. So let's go to Photoshop, and I will open your work. So, all right. One thing that actually struck me, if you do illustration, even though I know you would like to put like, I'm guessing this is your signature, or is it maybe the cover, the title? If it's a title, it's good. If it's your signature, maybe just put it at the corner here, so it's just more and discreet, because right now it's like on top of the illustration. Obviously, if it's a title, then it's probably a good placement for it. So for what I see, it's missing a tiny bit of contrast in a few places. But in terms of composition, I think you did a great job, knowing that you wanted to have, I'm guessing, the whole creature, I'm going to call it creature, on the cover. And we see a lot of things, but it's missing contrast for me. That's the one thing it's missing the most, because it's really hard to read some parts. Like for me, I had to really check to get that creature has a dollar or a piece of gold in its hands. And so yes, there's a few places like that. I would just add some contrast. So we know, to help you to do this, like we know that the light is coming from the top, right? So what you could do, I'm just gonna create a new layer of overlay to just do a quick review of this. And I will take a saffron brush with some white. So we know that the top of the wing will have some harsh light, right? So if I just take the top of the wing here, I could just add some more light on top of this. So it's going to be just more intense. And then we know that under the wing, you're going to have some shadows, some harder shadows. So I'm just going to paint some shadows right there. I'm just going to delete what I don't need, which is everywhere here. Don't need that. But see what's going to happen here, and I'm just going to, I probably should not use black. You know what, I'm going to give you a better example than that, because right now the black is making it like all desaturated and I don't like it. What I would do is probably use a bit of your color. I would go saturated, maybe reddish, because there's sun that goes in it, so you have some subsurface scattering maybe. I'm just going to try to get to a color that would make sense, and then just try to add more shadows. Just bear with me for a second. I'm going to delete what I don't need, just like that, and then just deleting what I don't need. But basically what you want to do is you want to boost the contrast where there's shadows and light, so it's going to help to read the illustration. Right now, now I know that the light is really coming there, and even that I could just try to have some sort of an art edge here, as like maybe it's going like the direction of the light. Maybe it's really just going like that way or something. But basically those art edge and those high contrast is going to help read the illustration, and then you want to do that everywhere. So what I mean to everywhere, I'm just going to give you a small example of what I mean. You have to think about the 3D of the object, right? So under the chin, you're going to have some art shadow. So you would have to, I'm just going to go with an overlay again, use black and white. But obviously if you use black and white, it's going to be desaturated. So you would have to put more time into it and find the colors that will not desaturate your illustration. Why is it not working now? Color dodge, that's why. Overlay is what I want. There we go. So I'm just going to do that. So you would have to just make sure that you use a color that doesn't desaturate your colors. But like under the head, you would have an occlusion shadow and a lot more shadows. Maybe that goes like this. You know, and you just have to boost all those places that you think that you're going to have more shadow, really. And that's going to help read your illustration, basically. And you have like lots of places, like the wing is one example. The top of the wing here could have more light. Top of the ears could have more light, as the light is just getting on it. Maybe you have a ring of light that goes on top of this ear here. It's going to help it. Your piece of gold here could have more light, more. What I would do actually was probably use a color dodge layer to just make it more shiny, and then use a dark color orange kind of thing, and then just try to just boost the brightness of it, something like that. Obviously this is maybe too much, but you get the idea. to just have something that's shiny. That's gonna help me read it. Maybe what everything that's at the bottom doesn't need necessarily to be like pushed too much, but everything that's here is really the center of the attention. So this is going to be really important. Like your eye is already really striking, so that's good. That's the one thing that we see as soon as we look at it. But just to add all those things is going to help have some more, some easier way to actually read the illustration. And that's to me, this is what's missing in this illustration. It's just a little bit more contrast, making sure that the shadows are a little bit more defined. It's going to help to read the illustration. And after that, you were talking about composition. I think the composition is great. We see the whole illustration. I'm guessing if this is the title, I'm thinking more and more, this is the title. This is the title, it's perfect. You see your character is looking at it. So it's like also like the composition is great because you actually read the title of it because the character is looking at it, and that brings the eye of the viewer to just read the title. So yeah, if you add more contrast to the piece of gold, then we'll see it. More contrast everywhere, it's going to be easier to read it, and after that, you're going to have a great one. Maybe overall as well, I would try to just boost the saturation of it, or maybe the vibrance, but just having a little bit more saturation. If it's a book for kids, having bright colors is going to help. So just maybe boost a little bit more the colors. It's going to be more happy, even though it's a magical kind of dark image. And yeah, I think from there you're going to have a great piece for your portfolio as well. So good work. I hope this was helpful for you. As usual, like I'm saying, I'm going to repeat myself here, but because we're not live, you guys cannot give me comments into the chat right now, and Fabian is not there to read that as well. So if you have any other question on this, just email us at hello@paintable.cc, and I'll make a pleasure to give you a little bit more notes on that. Otherwise, you can always subscribe, put your work next month, where we'll be live, that's a promise, and I'll be able to give you more advice live. Until then, I hope this was helpful. And we'll go to the next one. And for the next one, we have Girish. Girish was saying, is there another method to paint rather than using blending modes and gradient maps? Absolutely, there's a lot of ways to do it. For me, it's going to be hard to just to show you all of them, Girish. So like for these sessions, it's easier for me if you give me a piece of work and then you ask me a very precise question on how to blend something specific. But like blending mode is one thing, gradient maps is one thing, but then there's all the brushes and just painting as, you know, a traditional artist and just using paint without all the tricks that Photoshop gives you is another way. But obviously there's just this different trick. Like Photoshop is such a big application. There's a million ways to actually use it. It's going to be easier for me if you give me a specific illustration to work on, rather than me trying to show you all the tricks that comes out of Photoshop. That would take me just forever. So I hope that's kind of helpful. If any other question you have, just please email me at hello@paintable, and I'll make sure to answer you more precisely. Then we had Nate. Nate was saying, can you tell us how to study properly? Like studying anatomy, for example, you should also teach us how to properly use the knowledge we get from studies to our work from imagination, and please elaborate on how to draw from imagination. I know you've answered these questions before, but a clearer how to answer would be great. Well, Nate, when it comes to anatomy, it's like everything, right? There's many ways to actually approach everything. If you look at the anatomy that we have in the academy, we don't have. We're going to work on more to have more in 2018. Right now, we have a lot of facial anatomy, but the way I approach everything when it comes to imagination is repeat from imagination by using your memory. So it's having a picture. Such as, you know, I'm going to create just a blank canvas here to draw on it. It's have to have a blank image like this. But if you were to learn anything, really anything, I would try to first have an image, which is, you know, an image of whatever you want in a draw. It could be just a character or whatever. And then you want to have blank canvases where you step and repeat. And like I do for lots of my drawing, when I try to get better is I'm going to look at this one and then I'm going to mask it for a second, and I'm going to try to repeat it. And I'm going to try to repeat it as many times as it takes me to have it perfectly. And I'm going to mask the image, and this way I'll be able to actually to learn from imagination, because what I have to do is just remind myself of it. I need to have it in my head as a library, and you approach everything like this, it's going to be great. Now, if I had to show you specific skills to learn anatomy, this is not the place for it. I'm going to try to have more anatomy in 2018, so more tricks to actually draw the rest of the body. We're working on that, but this critique session is really for people that have work, that want to have critique on them. So if you have a piece of work that you want me to critique on anatomy, I'll be more than happy to do it. But if I were to teach anatomy on this critique session, this is not the place. It's going to take too much time. So I hope this is sort of helpful for now. Like I said, there's a lot of way for me to teach you anatomy, or to remember anatomy from imagination. This is one of them, making sure you have reference images, and then you just try to replicate it from imagination by masking the picture, and then coming back at the picture each time that you do one, see the difference. And this is going to build your memory, basically, because instead of just copying all the time, you actually try to remember the illustration. And if this is not clear enough for you, please again email me at paintable.cc, hello@paintable.cc. I'll make sure to go in more details because right now we're not live. I'm very sorry for that. But for sure, if I were to show you anatomy in this session, this would take too much time. So that being said, thank you for your question. If you want more precise answer, please email me. Now we have Olivia here that sends me 3 images, the mutant, the hell forest, and the ape. She says the mutant, hope you remember my mutant. Definitely, it's a really nice piece. This is finished work, but she would like to have some comment on them, so I'll do. Then the elf, this is a recent work, almost finished. Any comments will be welcome. And the ape, this is my recent art line work, almost finished. Any comment will be welcome. So perfect, Olivia. I will go and just get your work here. So this is the mutant, for what I remember. It's a great piece that you've been working for quite a few months now. Well, I don't know if you finished recently, but I remember seeing it a few times, and I saw the progress. I think it's really nice. I like the effect of traditional work mixed with the coloring of Photoshop. I think it's pretty cool. In terms of comments, there's a few things that I can see that could be better, such as you know, inside the mouth, because the shadows are supposed to be really harsh, because the light is coming from the top. You could have some stronger shadow, because right now I feel like it's a bit soft. Like over the eyes, it's okay. It's kind of hard, but the mouth should be more. I think it should be more dark than that inside the mouth. Even though there's red and everything, like inside the mouth here should be, I think, darker. And then the blood coming out of it could be definitely something like it's catching some light at some places. So you have like maybe like just more bloody red because it's catching the light. It's coming out of his mouth, and then maybe you would have some very shiny, bright highlights on the drops that would catch a little bit of light, and that would help to have like a lot of detail. You know, to add some highlights is always a good way to add details. So if you do this, that could help. But beside that, I saw the whole way you've been working on this illustration, and I think it's a great illustration itself. So yeah, good work on that. For the next one, I'm thinking, okay, this is the line work, and this is your, and just to catch the name here, you said health forest. It's very good. I think, I'm guessing it's at this point it's a bit more like a sketch. It's missing detail. That's the one thing it's missing. So because it's an illustration with like a lot of stuff happening. It's not just a character design here. It's like you have houses, you have different forest. I don't know how you call those things, but you have like ropes coming from tree to tree. You need to put more detail. Like I saw that there's a lot of texture, and texture is good. It will always help you with the detailing. Therefore, if you add some texture, you won't have to put too much detail, but you would still have, I think, to work on each of the houses and make sure that they're more readable. Right now, they are just a bit too fuzzy, I guess. So maybe you can actually have some reference images and just go see those little huts that you can have in villages, maybe like in Africa, in those tribes, and try to get inspired by them and try to maybe design them a little bit. Like you would need to, I think, to add just a little bit more detail. And here I'm just doing like what I kind of remember of a hut could look like. But yeah, you would have definitely to just add like a little bit more detail to just design them a little bit more, making sure that that you see more stuff from it. And yeah, I'm just going to try to draw a little bit what I'm meaning. But you know, like maybe like on top of it, what I just designed was like maybe there's like some branches to do the roof, and maybe you have some planks of wood to do the front step or doorstep. And then yeah, you just want to make sure that you design that properly. Adding more detail will help the eye of the viewer to see what they are exactly. And same thing with the leaves. The leaves that are on top of it, they should be like sharper at some places. And then you know, you're gonna have some light on top of the leaves at some places. So you really need to just take more time doing this. And from there, it's going to be easier for the people to read them as nice little huts in the tree. So adding a little bit more detail all over is really going to help. And then the character is the same thing. You will have to just add some more light, so you know, like that the light comes from the top. So I'm not sure if it's like a character with like a rope, like it looks like maybe it has like a little bit like a Jedi from the back is what I'm imagining when I'm seeing. But maybe you got some more lights coming from the top. So maybe at some places you're gonna have to get some more light, and then maybe there's a piece of cloth that has like a little bit of a fold right there. So you just need to just kind of design those things so we have a better idea of what it looks like. And when you're going to add in all those details, I think it's going to be a really great illustration. But right now the composition is amazing, the colors are great, the texture is amazing as well. You just need to add a little bit more detail so we have all those little touches that are really nice to look at. But yeah, all right. So that was one, and the other one is this one. The line work is really awesome, and it's fun to see the contrast in between the two. Right now, you have some really you know, like this work was like half traditional, half computer, and this one it's all computer for what I see. And then here we have like outline. So for me, it's like three styles that you're working on, and that's really nice to see. Maybe you want to try to maybe narrow down one way to work to just help you just progress faster. If you always knock on the same way to work, it's going to give you, I think, a stronger approach to illustration. You know exactly what's your process when you start something. But you know, there's like I said, like I like to experiment on a lot of things. So if you're experimenting, then just let yourself go. That's really nice. What I have to comment on this one, I think it's looking great because it's metal. My only thing, I think it's missing maybe some highlights at a few places. But the thing that really struck me the most is because the coloring and the way the color are so different for the both of them, it feels like the ape is like copy paste on them. It doesn't feel like they're part of the same image. To help that, I think maybe you would have to darker the ape with some, maybe with the color of the background, like the green and the red, basically. And to do that, what would I do? I would try to just, I'm gonna try to do it here, but just like, yeah, bring that like the opacity down, especially on the ground, because the ground is so dark. and then just have yeah, just have some maybe some red light coming from the top, but I'll probably use something more like soft light or overlay of some sort to just bring it down, and then it's gonna bring it darker, but it looks less like it's copy pasted. It's either you do that or you do the opposite, and then you have to light up the whole background all around him by using overlay and maybe using the blue, like it would have like some blue light. Maybe not the overlay, maybe I'm gonna go with the lighten. Whoops. Maybe a color dodge, something that's gonna light it up. It doesn't seem to light up enough because it's too dark. So I'm guessing you're gonna have to go with lighten and make sure that you work it up after that, because you're gonna lose a lot of details. But because it's too dark all around him, it doesn't feel, yeah, it doesn't feel like he's part of the illustration. I'm trying to think about another way that you could do this. You know, maybe there's a spotlight coming from an helicopter from the top, right? And so maybe you have a spotlight just on the ground with him in the middle. And bear with me here, I'm gonna try some stuff. So maybe I put it like this. I'm gonna try to just find a color mode that helps. Maybe this one actually, and then you would probably have to just delete just him out of it, because just like that. And then you would have to obviously just paint some more prominent highlights on top of him with the kind of the same color. And those are all just ideas to make sure that the ape and the background are just going together, because right now, as it is, it just feels like it's just a little bit too copy paste. I think from all the things that I tried, I prefer to just darken the ape, and then maybe you can just take the whole image and then light it up a little bit later. But I feel like if it's just a little bit darker, it feels like he's part of it, and now it's just becoming like a really nice image of like with like a dark feel out of it, and there's just like some shiny details that could go, some shiny highlights that could go on top of the ape. So I'm just gonna take an overlay layer maybe and just add some highlights in a few places. So it's gonna help this, making sure that it's like very shiny to some places. And there you go. You would have like a lot of fun and a lot of time to add all those little highlights everywhere, but yeah, I think that's gonna be necessary to just bring the ape to the foreplan and just make sure that it looks metallic, because right now it's rendered, but it's missing that, yeah, that shininess of the metallic of everywhere. So I would just go all over it really, and just making sure that you have this, and yeah, and beside that, I really like it. It's a cool concept. I really like that. Maybe the background could be just a little bit more blurred. Like it looks too much to me like it's flat, or not blurred, but maybe just add some more 3D, like just adding a little bit of like another tone to add some 3D effects. If this is like a piece of house that's been destroyed, maybe you have like some you know, some values to show the 3D form of it. So, and maybe a little bit of texture. You know, maybe there's some bricks. That's up to you. But just adding a little bit more so it doesn't look too much like a silhouette, because right now it looks like a silhouette. Even your characters, maybe just adding a little bit more values to make sure that it look a bit 3D will help. Same thing here. This is looking like a silhouette, so maybe you want to add just, you know, a little bit of rendering into it. Have some fun. It doesn't need to be too much detail. Like you could have like really like just an easy way to do it. Just use a soft round brush and try to add some more value into it, so we can read that it's 3D. and not a silhouette. But beside that, it's nice. This could need to be toned down a little bit. It seems to be just too bright. You want to make sure that the ape is the brighter thing into the image. But yeah, and beside that, I really like it. So hope that was helpful. Just small things that will bring it to just having more details on it. Great work, by the way. I really like the concept of it. It's really nice. So now let's go back to the form. Here we have Nikki that is doing some hands. So I'm starting down a fresh study on hands. I feel I still have trouble fully realizing volume in my head, or it's on your hands, but in your head, okay? And really making them translate to something with depth in the image. I'm hoping if I draw and paint 50 to 100 hands, I can try also to understand the stacking and foreshortening and join and relationship on these articulate part as space. All right, so let me have a look at your hands. All right, so for what I see, I really like it. That's the one thing I can start with. You give me also an image with like your reference images, so thank you. That's always great for me. It's easier for me to give you advices if you give me the reference image. So off the bat, I think you did a great job, really. Like, you can feel the tree out of it, and it's really nice. One thing I keep saying sometimes, just painting a little bit of a background is going to help you to just bring the volume out of it. Like here, you did a great job. It's missing maybe the highest values. So like, it's missing a bit of the highlight on top of the hand. That's what I see from off the bat. Like, always think about something when you think about value. When you think about volume. You need to think that you need a range of value to be able to have your whole volume, right? So I'm just gonna have another look here. Like, it's missing like a little bit of values all over to just bring it. So make sure when you're painting something, and it's not gonna be everywhere, but you're gonna have places that you're gonna have the highest value possible and the darkest value. Actually, there's artists that the way they do this, the way they like to do this, and I think it's a great way to do it. It's what they're doing is when they're trying to paint something. Let's say they were trying to paint this pair of head here. They would start by just showing where's the highest value and where's the darkest value. So I'm just going to move that around here so I can see both of them at the same time. And what they would do is basically, all right, they would be like, all right, so the highest value that you have on this is definitely the nails, right? So they would just paint the nail and make sure that it's obviously the right value. And from there, they would know that, all right, so I need to paint that's my highest value, and I know that from there there's like that part here that should be like higher, and then you can try to just, that's a bit too intense, but you can try to just go ahead and paint this value right here, and just like try to put it as geometric shape at the beginning. It's going to help you just visualize this part, and then you can add some more rendering to it and take your time to blend every part. But this way it's going to be easier for you to visualize. Like, I'm just going to put the nail here. And you would do the same thing with the darkest value, basically. You can see like already here that your darkest value is not dark enough. So you would have to just go back and just make sure that your darkest value, because what's going to help an image to be having a lot of volume is, it's the difference between those things, between the highest and the darkest. You see, like right now, I'm not even doing much to this illustration. I'm just adding just the darkest value that I see at the right places, and already it's popping a lot more, you know? Like if I just do this, you see that there's already like some more volumes, because your head, your brain is gonna make the work for you. If you see something very dark and something very pale, and you go in between those two, it's gonna give you a lot of volume. But if you go with something that's like grayish and then just tiny bit grayish, like the difference between those two is not big enough for you to have a beautiful volume. I hope that makes sense. So that's what I would try to do, because I think the rendering is beautiful. I like the stylization of the rendering. It's really nice with the little lines that appears in a few places like this and this. I really like it. I think it's just missing those key values, like the top values on top of the hand here, and the one thing missing is definitely the occlusion shadows in the middle, right? Like I don't even have to look at the reference for that. Like you can just imagine that between each finger here, you would have an occlusion shadow, and those occlusion shadow will help you to have a lot of volume between each finger. By just painting the darkest value, the occlusion shadow is usually like mainly black, so I'm just using black here. But it's like really thin, really small, and then just adding those things, just the key places. You can see that like it's making a huge difference. When I'm looking at it now, I see that there's a dark value in there, and therefore it's helping to have the whole thing more round up and more having more volume basically. So yeah, so make sure that like if I had to give you like one advice with all that been said, I would say make sure to have the highest value and the darkest value. Make sure to have the occlusion shadows at the right places and the highlight at the right places, and that's going to help a lot these illustration, because right now that's why it's a bit flat. It's because even like the darkest part that you have here, you see you could add probably you could probably have some black and still be visible. And so if you were to add just that occlusion shadow in between everything, it's going to help as well. Just going all everywhere and just adding that occlusion shadow, it's going to help a lot. So yeah, great work, by the way. I really like those hands. Just keep at it. I'm pretty sure if you do like 100 of them, you'll become a master of it. All right, so let's go back here, and the next piece is from TRivens. And here it says, "Hi guys, have you any tips on introducing warm and cool tones from imagination rather than just copying from photography? Also, how can I take this piece to a final render well and finished look?" Okay, so all right, so yeah, I have it in Photoshop right here. All right, so just okay, so first of all, nice. It's a very nice start. I see that you started with the black and white image. If you didn't see in the Academy, we also have a class called Muddy Color, or how to fix them, where I talk about how to actually add those tones that are needed, especially when it comes from black and white image. It's going to help you a lot. So if you didn't see that, I would first of all tell you, go have a look there. It's going to help you. But when you're already in an illustration and you want to add those warmer tones, cooler tones, like right now, the biggest difference that I see in the illustration that you show me in both ways, it's the background here, the wood, and that's kind of a cooler tone actually. Well, one thing is for sure, you could just try to start by changing the color, and for that, just having a color layer. And for what I see, it needs to be kind of a bluish, purplish, but it needs to be also darker. So maybe I'm going to use a multiply actually to just try to have it. It needs to be more blue though. I think I'm going to have to just put it and change it. One way you could do it, if you don't have to paint it all, you could just make a just a mask to mask the part of it. I'm just going to go all over it right there. And once you have the mask done, make a selection here. You can use this and just use a hue and saturation and just do the colorize here, and you'll be able to just modify it with more control. So I know it's darker, it needs to be more blue, more saturated, maybe more dark, and just try to get the right color from there. I won't spend hours and hours. I'm going to call that done, and then you just have to obviously go on your mask and make sure that your character is not touched by it. Because I'm on a mask, then if I go too far, I can go back. So that's perfect. and then you would have to do the middle of them. But you have to change that. This is going to help also with your coloring, especially if you do something, you know, like from photo reference, to have the right background. It's going to help you to get the right color on your skin as well. And then you can use that as a secondary color and just paint this all over. You see, like even her hair here, she has like darker parts. That could be used, that color that we just created could be used for those darker parts, basically. To just make sure that you have, you know, enough shadows everywhere. Maybe not this, but more like that color exactly. To just bring that, and that's gonna be helpful. And that way, you're not doing it like by copying. You're actually using your own image. You're using a color that you just created for your background, and then you're using it for like your color, and to have the color used on the hair and a little bit everywhere for different, like, you know, different colors. Maybe like even the tattoo can be like a little bit closer to that color. It's gonna bring a harmony in your color scheme, and that's really good because basically you're gonna have a right now what we have is a complementary color. We have the blue and the orange basically, and that's gonna help a lot to have like something appealing to the eye. So that's a trick for the colors. Then definitely muddy color, have a look at that. But when you have something like this, blending modes is always one of the best way to just add some few colors. I like to use overlay so many times, just add a splash of red or even a splash of yellow, depending if you want to warm with things. Now it's on normal, that's why it's not working. But like you see, like if I do this, and then you can just put the opacity down, and sometimes you're going to put the opacity down, you're going to find a color that you want, and then you can just pick that color as it is and just continue painting with it on a normal layer and just continue rendering your illustration this way. So that's definitely one thing. Then there's the gradient maps. The gradient maps are amazing for that because you can actually have something that's already rendered, and I'm pretty sure you probably start your illustration like that. So maybe this is just me repeating something you already know, but it's such a powerful tool that, you know, once you can modify that gradient map the way you want it, making sure you have all your tones, and it's a good way to just start a painting. And you don't have to put it all over like I did right now, you know, and that's been shown into the muddy color tutorial, I'm pretty sure. If you double click on it, you can play with the blend if, and then you can make sure that you still see a little bit of your illustration at the back. In this case, I would probably put the whites. So the whites I would just try to blend out and then just do a copy of it. And then you're able to just have a mix between your gradient map and the illustration you already did. And then obviously you can paint on the mask as much as you need to just bring back any parts that you would want to stay, like let's say maybe the hair, not to be touched, and most definitely the background here. And that's a very, very quick way for me to show you all the tools you can actually do. Obviously what you need to put in this illustration would be a little bit more time. Those are the tricks. But for sure, if you want everything that I showed you right now and more details, the muddy color tutorial is going to be perfect for you, and it's going to tell you exactly how you can bring that color skin tone at something a little bit more warm with the colors. Like you have a splash of color here on the breast, and if you do that with the right blending mode, it's going to be shown. And this tutorial is going to be perfect for you to know all those tricks. But beside that, I really like the illustration. Obviously, there's a few things, if I were to just go back to the original here, there's a few things that can be it's going to help, like the frame here of the back. I'm just going to, like these ones, they need to be more up, obviously. So just bringing it up to there. The hair, you know, just needs to be a little bit more round here. Use saffron brush, I think, to do this is going to be helpful. Or I think it's the framing, actually, now that I look at it, like the framing of it would need to just be, she needs to be just bigger into the whole area, because the hair, the head seems bigger on this one, like it's, like the zoom is on her head and she looks a little bit more back. But beside that, it's very cool illustration. I'm looking forward for you to work on it and to push the skin tone. And yeah, as usual, I'm going to repeat it, I think, on every pieces. But because today we're not live, if you have any more question about the information I give you right now, feel free to email me at hello@paintable.cc, and I'll make sure to answer you as soon as possible. And thank you for sharing. So let's go back to the form. And all right, here we have TRivens again saying, hi guys, I'm working on this composition from Imagination. Can I have some tips and layout? I do not see any images here, so I'm not sure if you actually give me one. I don't see any image in it, so maybe it's this one. But no, so TRivens, I'm sorry, but I don't see the image here, so I won't be able to give you advices on that. So the next one, Jackson. We have, all right, hello David and Fabian. Well, Fabian is not there today, but I'm sure you would love to. I've been working on a picture book for a friend as a Christmas gift. If it's okay, I'm going to post a couple of images. The first one depict England on a foggy morning. Are there any improvements which are needed? And he asked me to be harsh, literally. So I'll do my best to be harsh. I think I put all the images in one folder here. All right, so the first thing I want to say about this one is I love it, because seriously, I think you nailed the foggy kind of, melancholic mood out of it. To improve it, I think you just need to put more detail and more time into it. Like, there's two ways I can look at this image, right? I could say, all right, this is an image that is done. And if it's done, then, it looks great. I think there's like some texture, there's some details. And it's stylized. That's why I would call it done, basically, because it's so stylized that it could be done. But otherwise, if you want to put more time on it and you want me to be harsh, I would say that's missing a lot of details. And right now, the image could benefit a lot more time. And when it comes to architecture, it's really the details into the. You see, you put like lots of windows everywhere. Well, you should make sure that, all right. So you have. I know that there's a shadow here, so this. Even just to putting that, that shadow all over here to all the windows is going to help to read it a lot more. So this is too dark. But you understand that each window I would have to go and just make sure that I have that treaty, right? So there's a frame all over here, and that's going to help me to actually do the reading of this illustration. So making sure that you see that little frame for each window is going to help. Now, I'm not sure if you're doing from imagination or from like reference. So if you have a reference, just follow it. But otherwise, just think about how, the light is lighting one piece and the other one. So make sure that you have the light piece as well. So maybe there's like some light hitting this. I'm just going to go all white so I understand what I mean. But so you would have like maybe like a little splash of light that comes here to there, just to to just bright up everything. So make sure that you have the bright parts and you have the shadows. So that's one thing that can be done really fast. The other thing is erase all the lines, and that's going to bring another level of rendering to your image. And it's going to look like you put a lot more time into it. And that's why I started this critique saying like, like this could be absolutely done to me. And it would be nice. If it's a style that you want to have, then it's beautiful. I like this image. But if you want to push it even more, then just render it more. Make sure that you have maybe a bricks on front of it, or, like wood. You can do some photo reference and some photo bashing maybe. Just bring some wood texture here and then repaint on top of it to add more texture, or just paint it all over. Same thing with the little antennas, like they really look like lines, and I like it this way. But maybe you want to put more time into it. Maybe you want to put some tiny highlights just to make sure that you can read them more into the light, because they're probably going to catch the light at that height. Same thing with the chimney, like here. You got lights right there, so obviously you're going to have lights on a part of this chimney, and if they are metallic, then you're going to have even the highlights, and so you can just place the highlight, making sure that they're really blinking, not blinking, but flashing. So making sure that you add all those details going to add. So obviously I'm not going to start rendering that all things, but it's basically what it's missing. So it's either you just keep the styles very stylized, otherwise you just add a lot more details everywhere, making sure that the rendering is there. And Yeah, but beside that, the composition, the way you frame the whole thing, I really like it. It's a really nice illustration. Here you have another one from you. I'm just gonna go check what you were saying for this one. This is another image. It is a school bus driving through the Caribbean, and I've posted a color composition. Yeah. So same thing here for me. Really, I think the composition is really cool. You know, you see the bus. I like the colors. Really, I would say that the colors that I prefer, it's something you know, something in between those two actually. Oops. Just going to create a new layer here. Something in between those two here, because I like the way you put some red into the whole image. It really warms up the whole image. It's really nice. I realize the texture also that you choose. It's really cool. It's a really nice texture. I'm actually really impressed. I don't know. I'm not sure how you did that. I'm guessing you add like a texture on top of everything. It's really cool. What is missing once again is a little bit more rendering. You know, like making sure that you can read. And again, I'm going to say that if you want this as is, as a style, go for it. I think that could be an image that is done. Absolutely. Well, I would finish the tree, but beside that, you know, like I like all the texture that you put all over it, like the little parts everywhere, the little lines. I think it's really cool. But if you want to push that more, you want me to be harsh, then add some more rendering. Make sure to make to make disappear the lines. You know, so like we know that the light's going to come from the top, so we'll have you know, like shadows coming from there, but then this is going to disappear, and instead of a line of dark here, you're going to have a lighter. You're going to have a kind of highlights, right? Because the light's coming from the top, and then that's the same thing here. You want to make disappear the lines. Maybe there's just a tiny bit to make it read. And then here you will see that edge, so you can paint that edge. And you want to just render everything, and maybe there's another color into this. Maybe there's a sign. Maybe it says you know, school or something. Same thing with the lights. You want to make sure that you render the lights, and then there's some light that's coming from the top, so it's the same thing. And then just want to render basically everything with the composition between with the lighting in your head, right? So yeah, so same comment basically. It's like I really like the style. You can push it as far as you can, but the one thing is missing all over is just rendering. And if you render everything and make sure that you know that it's all really beautiful, really rendered, and you add some highlights at the right places, and you make everything pop, I think it's going to be great as well. Either way you go, I think you have a really great start. Obviously, just finished the tree. But beside that, I think it's really nice. And the last one that she sent was the hummingbird. Was that hummingbird? Just going to put it bigger. And for this one, you were saying that lastly, I'm working on a hummingbird painting as part as a book. But it looked quite muddy to Photoshop-like. Are there any brushes that could give me a more traditional feel? Well, depending on the brushes that you have, there's a few brushes in the Academy that we give. I'm not sure exactly where you could have, but I think I'm going to work, I guess, on one that's like more traditional feel, because I've been working these days a lot with the mixer brush tool, and I've been having a lot of fun actually. I think I'm going to start creating brushes like with a little bit more the mixer brush tool. It's giving you a more like look and feel of like painterly effects, but the reason why it looks more Photoshop is probably because you've been using the brush, but it's also because you didn't put enough details. Once again, you want to make sure that you have an image that show you details. Like I don't know if the resolution that you have at home is better than this one, but it's hard for me to see like the small details. What you need to do, especially for this one, it's a close-up of a bird. So everything's going to be in the design of the feathers, and the feathers need to be like just, you need to take a lot more time into it. By adding each feather, you know, like literally like you want to be sure to see each feather, and then the lighting that goes into it with small changes into the hues you know, like you're gonna have to put like a lot of love if you want something that's gonna be more realistic. Uh, but like for me, this is too early. Like you put like your basic colors in here, and it's nice. But you like there's like a I don't know. You put like a gray kind of line all over it, which doesn't help into the showing the realism. I'm not sure if it was like your sketch at the beginning or anything, but that needs to go. And then, you know, like on top of the head here, like you can see that this isn't just a piece of gray, there's like details into it. And then so you would have to, you know, go in ahead and paint those details by first adding some more highlights. And then I can see that there's like some sort of like, well, for the resolution that I have, which is not great right now, I'm just gonna go here and something there, then kind of like some little dots into it that are like a little bit everywhere. Maybe go with the black and the green, and you add those dots, and you just want to make sure to add more details into it to have, yeah, the resolution that you want to have. And like the changes of the colors, like you see that there's like a little bit of light over here, so maybe you want to paint that thing right there, and then you got some blue here. So just, you know, take your time to look at all the small different details. Like here, you got like a huge part here supposed to be lighter, and it's not just going to be like a part that's like that. Although, you know, like if you want to style it like that, just go ahead. But if you want something with more details, then you're going to have to paint them. And it's either you paint them one by one, like I would probably do. It's going to take you forever, but it's going to give you like something very stylized. Or you can, you know, you could literally just do some texture and find a texture brush maybe that has heavy texture on them, and then just try to get that happy mistake. I'm thinking about one here, this one, that's creating, I'm going to go on a new layer, but it's going to create like a bunch of like random things here. And then what I would do is I would start my painting with this, you know, I would start my painting with this, and don't focus on the brush itself. It could be any brush, right? It's just something that gives you texture that you're like, all right, I can work with that. And then you just want to work with it and just, you know, implement it a little bit more. So you're going to have like places that's going to be like a little bit more highlight. So I'm going to have some more highlights all over here, and then maybe a little bit more highlights over there. And then the blue, it's going to be the same thing. I'm going to change the hue a little bit, and then just play with those colors all over it, and just try to paint more smaller detail into it. Can try to push it just a little bit more so you have a better example. But yeah, and so the mixer brush tool, like I was saying, like I've been starting to use the mixer brush tool because it's kind of, you know, blending the colors at the same time. It's going to take out maybe the sharpness, and that's why it's not always great when you don't have much of resolution, which I don't know what I'm working on, but there's quite enough resolution on this one, I guess. But sometimes it's just going to mush the colors, so to have like just normal Photoshop brushes is going to help you with just the details that you want to have. But so yeah, just adding like lots more details and just zooming in, zooming out, and yeah, you know, like you see, like from this distance, it's looking good. If I'm going too close, then you see a bunch of lines. It depends on like what's going to be the size of your final image as well. You know, if I want an image that's like to be from here, then maybe I'm okay with that amount of details. If an image is going to be that big, well, maybe I want to continue working on it and making sure that yeah, that it looks more details. But especially when it comes to bird, you're gonna have to paint H feathers. There's no really trick beside that, except if you use a texture brush like I just did to just help you start, but even then you'll have to continue painting more detail. You have a good start, you just need to put more details into it really, and get rid of this, and maybe also help you with the background that has a little bit more of a color tone. Like when you do a flat background, it really flattens your image. So even if you like having a sketch, try to start with a background that is not flat. It's going to help you to just get a better feel out of your illustration. But beside that, great work, really nice illustration. It's really nice. I really like the bus and the little houses and even the hummingbird. It's really, really nice. So keep at it. Looking forward to see them with a little bit more work on them. And all right, we'll go back here, and now we have we have TRivens again that sent us a portrait and says, "Hey guys, I was working on this very, very rough value study. Could I have some help painting the hands and just an overall critique?" All right, let me open this. Okay, so okay, when it comes to the hands, I think it's the same problem with everything. And here, like, you're giving me a very, very loose sketch, you know, because at the end of the day, painting hands and painting face is going to be the same thing. You just need to take more of your time. First, try to establish where the light is coming from. That's going to help you to render it. So I know that the light, for what I see there's a highlight on the cheek here, and it's on the nose. I feel it's like it's front left, right? So for what I see, like even on the finger, like the light is here, and then it's darker here. So it's definitely like kind of a front thing. So first, try to, like, especially if you start and you just paint a value like this, then try to establish the form and the shape of your fingers. Right now, like, it's hard for me to see like the size of the hand. Like, you know, like if I were to do like a high outline of your hand, it looks like something like this right now, you know, which it's just too loose is my point. So what I would try to do is just try to, you know, like I've been showing lots of technique when it comes to geometric shape. For me, it helps a lot. But you would have to go a few steps backwards right now. Like even the face, if you look at the ratio face and your face looks smaller than your hand right now. You would have to make sure that this is not the case. So first thing first, I'm going to say that the head should be bigger here. So I'm just going to take the head, make a copy, and then like this should be more, even more than that, but let's say that this is already better. Then obviously you would have to paint the hair at the right places. I would use a soft round brush to start with that actually, because you'll be able to add some more detail later. So yeah, so already like just the ratio is going to be a little bit better on both of them. And then yeah, just take your time really. Whoops. You want to take your time, establish the lights, establish the values, and there's no secret to it. When you render anything really, and especially if you work from an image, from reference, just take more time. Like there's already a lot of things that feel like you went too fast. So if you look at the first finger, like you see like the angle here, like it's not the same. So try to just establish that. And for that, you just need to take more of your time. Look at the angles really that you see on your reference image. Even if it's loose, like I'm still gonna keep it loose right now, but like trying to get the angles right now, just like this, and then that's maybe too big, so then put it down, and then you want to continue and just establish the value first. So I got the finger, it's going to be over there. I'm just going to take something darker here to just establish the top angle here, and then I'm going to have like from there to there. If the angle was right, it's even right here. Just make sure that, yeah, so you establish the angle right first. That should be like this. And you have some sort of an angle like that here. It goes. And then, so yeah, angle, angle, angle. And then your finger kind of seemed like this. So just modifying, like the first finger is going to give me already the first reference for me to work with. So now I can say like, all right, so that if this angle is correct, I can base the rest of the hand on it. So the next finger starts where? Starts a little bit higher, and then I have some sort of an angle, a right angle like this. And really take your time, just one by one. If you go fast and you try to do the whole hands at once, it's going to be too hard for you to actually get the right angles for everything. And then I can be like, all right, so I know that should be like kind of close from here. That's the angle, and then there's like a small angle right there. And just like that, so that's going to be the hand. And just by establishing this first, then you're going to be able to render the whole thing. Like you see, like your finger here is like totally the wrong angle. Like the knuckle from there to there, so it should appear around here. So that's where that knuckle should be, and then the angle of it goes under the bottom lip until right about here, and then you have an angle, a little bit of an angle like this, right? You can even put it like more, just to so we see it more. And then it goes like that and finishes on top of that. So establishing this is going to help you first, and then it's just a question of rendering, really. And I'm just going to try to push this till here. And then it's going to tell me if the hand is placed at the right place. And you see that it's coming from there. So I guess what I'm saying is try to maybe do an outline first to just see where you're supposed to place your fingers. It's going to help you. And then you can start rendering it. But if you start too loose, like you started here with like lots of small bits and bytes of light, it's going to be really hard. After that, you're gonna work harder to render it from there than if you were doing an outline like I just did. So I'm going to try and finish like the outline here real quick. Like I can see like already like the length between the finger here, which I kind of have here. So try to finish that like this. Is not correct. Like I should have more of like, I should start from like pinky here and then having kind of a right there, and then it should be like almost longer, just like that. And then from there, I would even continue from there to make sure that your face is well placed, like the lip, like you have a bigger lip because it doesn't go on top of the whole lip like it does right now. It's gonna help you basically when you build something that you take more of your time. Then after that, you can use it to measure the rest of it. So right now I'm trying to measure the lips based on the finger because I feel like the fingers are closer, so that's nice. Now I can base that with the angle of the jaw, which should be a little bit more like this. And then you have like a dent into the bone of the face. And well, the eyes should be like smaller, obviously, but this is like it needs to be more worked. And basically, I just go all over it and be like, all right, so now I'm able to place just all the small things. Like it goes on top of that, but not that much. And then the nose, the size of the nose, and everything based on when I started. But if you start like this is, the problem here, you asked me to give you advices on the end, but the problem is not there. I think is you started way too loose, way too fast. Just go back at it. Try to start with a line work here. It's going to help you to just establish the right proportions, and then it's really just a question of rendering. There's no secret at it. When it comes to draw a hand, a face, a foot, a house, it's all about finding the light and making sure that that you paint the light properly and correctly. But for that, you need to first establish the proportions of your illustration. So yeah, I hope this helps. Just keep at it. Just make sure that you find the right angles for your fingers, and then you'll be on your way to go for this illustration. And I'm looking forward to see it more work. As usual, if you have more questions about this one, once again, I'm going to say it, like I said, I'm going to repeat myself for this one. It's a recorded one, so if you have more questions, just email me at hello@paintable.cc, Otherwise, feel free to repost this one into the next live workshop we will have in January. So yeah, like I was saying at the beginning, like it's because it's hard for us to actually follow with the moving and the families and everything. So we're doing this one live. I had problem with internet, so basically this is going to be like this is not going to be like that for the next one. Next one will be live. We'll be able to answer your question at the same time, but I'm not able to answer the question right now because it's a recording. So if you have more question, email me at hello@paintable.cc. It's going to be our pleasure to come back at it. In the meantime, great job. Just keep on working on it, and yeah, I think it's going to be good. So yeah, I'll go back here, and now we have Tim. Tim saying, this is an updated version of my gizmo painting from October. I have not removed the thick black outline yet, but I will blend them in later. And then you send me an image telling me that this is the high resolution of it. So all right, so let's go at it. So you say you're going to remove the lines. All right, cool. Also, you told me, I think, that it was supposed to be a t-shirt illustration. If it's a t-shirt illustration, maybe I'll base my information on this knowledge of it. I really like it. I think it's really nice. I think it's missing saturation. It's one of the things I think it's missing. I would just put up human saturation on top of it and just try to boost a little bit of saturation. It's going to make it just more vibrant. Maybe tiny bit of the level thing too. Just trying to brighten up the whole image really. So yeah, I'm just going to put those in the group, and then you can see that just bringing that higher, it's going to help reading the image, especially from a distance. After that, if it goes on a t-shirt, I'm guessing it's going to be then a digital printing on a t-shirt, as the colors are too many blend. The detail that you put in the fur is nice. Maybe it's needing a little bit of contrast. So I'm going to take a brightness contrast here and try to boost the contrast. It seems to be harder than I think. Maybe I'm going to try just to do this, and doesn't really bring exactly. It's going to be hard. I think it's going to be really hard to bring back those details, because my fear with those details that you put all over the fur are really nice, but they're so subtle that I feel like when you're going to print it, it's going to be really hard to read because there's not enough contrast all over it. So that could be one problem. Now I can see also that because of boosted stuff, you put some texture all over the eyes. Maybe that could be cleaned a little bit, you know, just to make it just more clean. There's like also like a line here that we can't see. That's probably the texture that you added on top of it. Or is it the shadow of the hat? Might be the shadow of the hat. If it's the shadow of the hat, then forget what I said. But I feel like there's definitely a line here. See it pass on top of the background. So just maybe be more careful. When you add some stuff, try to zoom in, making sure that you don't have that. Like this is not supposed to be in the background. If it's the shadow especially, you will not have shadow like that on the background. Beside that, yeah, so I really like the texture that you put all over, but really like those things here, this is not correct. You should just make sure that if you put some shadow, and I feel like it's a shadow, so that's okay, but it's not going to be on the background for sure. So just make sure that you take your time when you put the shadows like this, that it's not on top of the background, and that's going to help a lot. Beside that, I really like the concept. I think it's really nice. A little gizmo slash Freddy Krueger. But yeah, that's pretty much what I have to say on this one. I like the texture. I think the shadow though, just take your time and make sure to delete those parts. Like that should not be too hard to delete, especially if you have the original. I'm guessing you have a few layers to help you, and if you're about to take off the line, so then you won't be able. But just make sure to delete this. Yeah. these parts all over there. That's not supposed to be there. You cannot see a shadow on top of the background, obviously. But beside that, great work, and thanks for sharing, Tim. I think this is the last one for this week, guys. I hope you enjoy this review. I'm sorry if it wasn't live. We had a few problems here in Canada because I'm visiting family. It's really hard for me to get a place where I got some good internet that doesn't go down every 2 minutes. So sorry for that, but rest assured that next month we will be back on the live program. We have actually a lot more live things that we want to do with you guys. I'm very excited about this. So yeah, just stick around. If you have more questions about these critiques or for any kind of reason, if you want to email me at hello@paintable.cc, I'll make a pleasure to answer you. In the meantime, I want to wish you guys a good holiday, Merry Christmas, and Happy New Year. I'm looking forward to be with you in 2018. And until then, happy painting, guys.